Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. I will be introducing the first wine for the evening that's intended to go with both your first and second course. Chefs in the back getting dinner ready for you all, so I apologize if you hear any pans crashing. So we're going to be getting started with the Gurgitch Hills Fumé Blanc, or Sauvignon Blanc is the grape utilized in this. Fumé Blanc is actually a term that Robert Mondavi coined back circa late 60s, 70s to help the Sauvignon Blanc grape gain some traction in California. It just wasn't a very widely consumed grape, and what there was out there was not very good, a little bit too sweet. So he gave it a new name to reinvent it, and it has taken off in California here. The story of Gurgitch Hills goes back to 1976, actually, and it starts with Mike Gurgitch, who at that point was the head winemaker for Chateau Montelena. And in 1976, his 1973 vintage of the Chardonnay that he made for Chateau Montelena was submitted for a blind tasting in Paris, France, where it went up against some pretty highly regarded white Burgundies. At the end of it all, it was Mike's Chardonnay out of California that won best in category and set the world on fire, turned it upside down actually, because at that point California just was not a very highly regarded wine producing region. So certainly turned some heads, and we have a lot to thank Mike for that, people in my industry, that is. So with the Fumé Blanc, they do give it a little bit of an oak regime, as the name kind of leads to, like smoked wood. Nothing to the extent of Cabernet or Chardonnay with as far as new oak. In fact, they use not the 250 liter barrels that you're all familiar with you visiting wineries, but rather they use 900 liter Foudres. So it's an enormous barrel that really just changes the ratio of juice to wood contact. So it's not as a heavy seasoning as you would get with some of the other grapes that go into the smaller barrels. This wine on the nose gave me a lot of lemon peel, unripe melon, a little bit of oily waxiness to it, as well as this note of bell pepper. And if you've ever smelled this before, it's caused by a compound called pyrazine. This is the same compound that is actually found in both bell peppers and jalapenos. So you can impress your friends now with that fancy word when you detect it, possibly in your Cab Franc. Merlot Sauvignon Blanc for sure is also a carrier of that trait. On the palate, it was pretty consistent with the nose. I didn't pick up the tropical fruit on the nose, but it came out afterwards. As well, the underripe melon came out to be a pretty ripe cantaloupe for me. The Granny Smith apple stayed present, as well as the lemon peel and the oil. And the biggest takeaway for me was the acid and the minerality. Although the dishes you are having for the first and second course are by no means heavy, they are rich. So this acid's gonna help that second and third bite keep tasting just like the first. So I hope you enjoy this wine as much as I did. Cheers.
Hello everyone, welcome to Airy Kitchen at Stone Eagle. For our wine dinner, we labeled every package 1, 2, 3, and 4 according to its course. Try to make it as easy as possible. Let's begin. Alright everyone, we're going to start off with our prosciutto and melon salad. Open the box. You'll see everything is nice is inside there. You have your cantaloupe, melon, prosciutto, Thai basil, lemon oil, and burrata cheese. We're going to start by opening up our melon. Laying a few pieces down on the plate. Next, we're going to add the burrata cheese. Now, burrata cheese is a mix between ricotta cheese and fresh mozzarella. Put that down there. Open the prosciutto package up, which are layered nicely between parchment paper. Just take these, fold them nicely, or any which way you like. There's 4 slices of prosciutto, 4 pieces of melon, 1 burrata. Take a little salt and pepper just for your cheese. Sprinkle it around. Take the Thai basil. What I like to do is rip it up. Just tear it with your hands, sprinkle it about. No rhyme, no reason. What I find is that ripping it releases the oils. Take the lemon oil, just drizzle it around. And there you have prosciutto melon salad. Next we're going to heat up our soup. Curried cauliflower soup. Enough for 2 people here. Pour it into the pan on the stove. Make sure you get every good last drop out. Heat over medium-high heat. Stirring intermittently. Don't scorch it. Now that your soup is hot, pour it into your bowl. Doesn't matter what kind of bowl you have. And enjoy.
I hope you enjoyed your first 2 courses here. It was certainly fun tasting those for myself. The next wine we're going to be moving on to, this is just for the second course, and we're going to be moving on to the Justin Isosceles. Vintage is 2016. Justin, pretty cool story here. They were some of the first pioneers in Paso Robles that were trying to push for the Bordeaux varietals, that is Cabernet, Cab Franc, Merlot, etc. Up until that point, everyone was pretty much exclusively planting Zinfandel, as well as Rhone varietals such as Syrah. But Justin Baldwin was really trying hard to develop a world-class Bordeaux blend in Paso Robles. And in the 80s, they kind of honed their craft, and it wasn't until 1997 that he achieved really what he set out to do, when the Wine Spectator, who was then it was then headed by James Suckling, who is now a very highly regarded wine critic onto himself, named the Justin, which was then called Justin Reserve. Now we call it the Justin Isosceles. Named it one of the top 10 wines in the world. Certainly turned some heads, especially since it didn't say Napa Valley on it. So we were very fortunate enough to acquire this bottle, and given the current state of affairs, we were able to get this bottle and pass along those savings to the membership, and treat ourselves to a fun red for the second course. So this 2016 vintage, still kind of in the middle of the drought years. I know we don't really remember that because it's been raining a lot these last 2 years. But it was still a difficult vintage. Luckily, September and October in Paso Robles had a pretty significant cool down that allowed the grapes to stay on the vine for a little bit longer and develop those complexities and not drink so hot. So this particular vintage, it does change. Generally, I believe always Cab led, don't quote me, but 85% Cabernet, It is 8% Cab Franc, 7% Merlot. On the nose, I picked up a lot of ripe black fruit, cassis, plum, baking spices, cocoa, this kind of forest floor note to it, almost like decaying leaves. And I couldn't tell on the nose if I was going to be tasting eucalyptus or anise, but I certainly picked up this, I guess medicinal would be the only way I would be able to characterize that. On the palate, I got some really lush brambly fruit, both black and red. The cocoa stayed there, and the herb note actually ended up being anise for me. So I let go of the eucalyptus and I stuck to anise. But I really enjoyed the polished tannins on this wine. It makes it incredibly easy to drink. The reason I chose this wine for the second course was to work with the chimichurri. Traditionally, I wouldn't pair such a big wine with the filet, but the chimichurri, which is one of my favorite condiments, requires a little bit more boldness, a little bit more fruit to withstand that herbaceousness. You see a lot of Malbec being used in Argentina, where the condiment hails from. So I hope you enjoy this pairing, and we'll see you for the third course.
So next we're gonna have our entree. Consists of 8-ounce filet mignon, prime grade, heirloom tomatoes, rosemary roasted potatoes, and a chimichurri sauce. We're gonna take our filet first, since that takes the longest. Open it up. Season, cook to your liking. Gonna add this to a pan and put this right in the oven. While that's working, I'm gonna do the same thing with the potatoes. Open them up. They have a little bit of oil on them already, so they don't need any cooking oil. I'm gonna add that to the oven as well. While the meat and potatoes are in the oven, we can start our plating. Beautiful heirloom tomatoes. Down right there. Make sure your chimichurri sauce is not too cold where the oil is congealed. Nice and beautiful. I'm gonna grab the meat and potatoes out of the oven because I believe they're done now. Start with the potatoes. Put them anywhere you like. We're gonna take our filet right on top of everything. Take our chimichurri sauce, drizzle it around. This sauce is good on everything. Steak, anything you grill, this sauce is perfect. There you have it.
Hope you're all not too full from that 8-ounce filet. But we'll get started with the third course. In any event here, we're going to be featuring the Croft Reserve Tawny Port. Port wine's one of the best values out there in the wine world. Most of the grapes are still harvested by hand because they're all grown on terraces, steep terraces. As well, they have to also minimize how long the skin stays in contact with the liquid so it doesn't extract a lot of tannins. But it does a lot of color. So that requires a lot of punching down. And if you remember the I Love Lucy episode where they're doing it by foot, very much is still practiced there. If you can afford mechanical machinery that mimics the human foot, that's awesome, but still done the old-fashioned way there. It is a fortified wine, meaning that they introduce a neutral grain alcohol to the wine, and that raises the alcohol level to where the yeast cannot survive and finish the wine to dryness, so it leaves behind that residual sugar, which is where you're getting that sweetness and that richness from. The grapes are indigenous there. You will recognize Tempranillo, although it's called Tinta Roriz there, with another 4 grapes, Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Barroca, and Tinta Cao. We'll be tasting the Croft non-vintage. Some of the wine that's in this is approximately 7 years old or so, and they blend kind of like champagne. And like champagne, there's declared vintages. The nice thing about declared vintage port, if you ever pick up a bottle, they'll last you half a century before you start seeing any kind of decay. Most of them are intended to be shelved for 10 to 20 years before you even enjoy them. So keep your eye out for those. Croft was established in 1588 and is the oldest port house that's still in production right now. It's funny, as I learned in my process of becoming a somm, how all these houses, Croft, Taylor Fladgate, Wares, Grams, they're not very indigenous or Portuguese sounding surnames. I came to find out that it was during the Spanish Succession where the British no longer had access to French or Spanish wine, that they had to look to a new trading partner. So they looked at Portugal, fell in love with the wines there, and you started seeing some heavy investment and a lot of moving of English, Dutch, and German folk into the area to continue to develop these properties here. But on the nose, I got a lot of complex notes to it, a lot of caramel, butterscotch, raisins, red berries, some spices and cedar. On the palate, I picked up like baked berry pie, brambly, plum, raisin, caramel. It kind of looked like a little bit of Thanksgiving. These wines pair very well with ripe cheeses, maybe things that are just a little bit slightly bitter. They balance out very well. So I hope I turn you on to ports and you enjoy the rest of this course.
Last but not least, we have our dessert. We prepared a grilled pound cake for you. Whipped cream will be on the side, strawberry compote, and your grilled, pre-grilled pound cake. This is delicious. I like to grill the pound cake. Gives them more depth of flavor, caramelizes the sugar a little bit. So I'm just gonna pop it in the oven, 350-degree oven, for say maybe 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes now. I believe the pound cake is ready to go. This is optional. You don't need to warm it up. I think it just tastes better that way. Plate it very simply, right in the middle of the dish. Now both of these containers are for 2 servings each. So the strawberries and the cream are both for 2. So take half of what you have here. Put that on the top. Take a nice dollop of whipped cream. You can never have enough whipped cream, I'd say. There you have it. Grilled pound cake with organic strawberries and vanilla whipped cream. Well, that was our Stone Eagle virtual wine dinner. I hope the directions and instructions were clear and concise. I'd love to see your plate ups. Please take pictures of it and send them to me at jtice@stoneeaglegolf.com. Be safe and healthy. Cheers.